speed. Machine guns ready to go. Are you ready? Hey, are you ready for this? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Out of the doorway, the bullets rip to the sound of the beat. Yeah. Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. And another one gone. And another one gone. Another one bites the dust. Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna get you too. Another one bites the dust. How do you think I'm gonna get along without you when you're gone? You took me for everything that I had and kicked me out of my own. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? How long can you stand the heat? Every time I have a breathe, still trying to beat. Look out! Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. And another one gone. And another one gone. Another one bites the dust. Hey, I'm gonna get you too. Another one bites the dust. Hey! Oh, take it! Bite the dust! Bite the dust, yeah! Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. Ow! Another one bites the dust. Hey, hey! Another one bites the dust. Hey! Ooh, shout! There are plenty of ways that you can hurt a man and bring him to the ground. You can beat him, you can cheat him, you can treat him bad. You leave him when he's down. Yeah. But I'm ready, it's ready for you. I'm standing on my own to beat. Out of the way, the bullets rip. Repeating to the sound of beat. Oh, yeah. Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. And another one gone. And another one gone. Another one bites the dust. Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna get you too. Another one bites the dust. Shoot out. All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's time for Coffee and Conspiracies. And what a better way to start the day than with an eye drop media video?
Absolutely. That woke me right up.
Did that wake you right up? Oh, my goodness. You know what's really funny about that is that Craig in Telegram chat posted a very classic meme today. And it totally, when he posted it, I didn't tell him, but I was thinking, oh, this goes perfect with the video that I'm going to show this morning. So he posted this classic. If the people stand, game over. I'm like, I haven't seen that in a couple of years. It's definitely a classic. So
I don't know that I've ever seen it before today.
What's that?
I don't know that I'd ever seen it before today.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was going around a lot during COVID, so totally goes great with the deep state video. Good morning, friends. How is everybody today? Who do we have today? Let's see. We've got Herbie, Pocket Friend, Moxie, Magnolia, Dorkbot. Oh, I know who Dorkbot must be. Then we've got Miss Penguin, first time Nevlander. Welcome, Miss Penguin. And we've got Magnolia. And I think I said Pocket Friend and Herbie. So yeah, welcome, guys. We're really excited for you to join us. So on Tuesday, we had a long interview with Janine, and yeah, do you have any thoughts about Tuesday? Because we're sort of going to continue that conversation today.
Tuesday was awesome. I loved hearing everything Deneen had to say. And some of the stuff she said was completely heartbreaking.
I know it was, but some of it was kind of hopeful too. Like, pretty cool. She was able to make friends. And I think she said she forgot to tell her goose story. I should pull up that video. She forgot to tell her goose story.
Yeah.
And oh gosh, I hope I can find it now because we've had a lot of comments in chat. I don't. Oh, here we are. Here we are. I'm gonna copy this link and post it in our shared browser. It's from Telegram. And yeah, this was one she didn't get to, but I don't know if I can make it bigger, but can you see
I
it?
can read that.
Okay, go ahead.
There were several dozen Canadian geese who lived at the prison I was in. So many inmates were terrified of them, and almost everyone hated that they squawked outside our cells every night, or all night, every night. I absolutely loved them. Their loud squawking transformed the harsh atmosphere and brought me peace. My second cellmate and I didn't get along well at all. The strain was rough on both of us. We were completely different in all the important ways. But we both adored the geese. We bonded over that. Our love for the geese helped us see the good in each other. I don't think we would have parted as friends without them. She and I were released the same day and have no contact. I smile imagining her missing our prison geese too.
So she hasn't been able to have contact with friends, it sounds like. But
remember me?
This video.
Come here. I know you're all grown up. Come here. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come here. Come here. How y'all doing? You guys are so grown up now. This is awesome. You guys went viral on TikTok. I don't even think you know that. Everybody come on over. Seagulls too. People are actually afraid of you guys. Look, boop, 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 boop. Oh, hello everybody. Are you guys coming to join the party? What's that? You.
Thank you, Herbie. Huh?
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to thank Herbie for finding that and posting it in chat. What were you going to say?
So I remember her saying during her interview that she had to cut ties with everybody that she was in prison with for her parole. Or not her parole, but her probation.
Yeah.
She can't have contact with any felons.
Yeah, that's too bad. You would think, like, if you're in there and you make friends and somebody goes out, you'd wonder, why haven't they contacted me? But that was definitely a pretty cool moment that she shared, that she got to appreciate the geese and God's wonders. And it's true that, people get annoyed with the geese. But
I can speak to that. I grew up in an area that was known for the geese. Like people would come. We lived on a marsh in Wisconsin. The city's called Horicon, and it's literally called the city on the marsh.
Oh, really?
And people would come looking for the geese in the summer. And I'm like, did you look down by the river? How do you miss them? Like our population got really, really big for a while there, and they were actually having people hunt them. But the amount of goose poop everywhere was just insane.
Oh, yeah,
the grass because of the acidity of it, and but
they can make quite a mess.
My sister still lives in the house that we grew up in, and she still has to stop for geese to cross the road. on her way to work.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's sweet. That is so sweet. Well, I wanted to cover that before we get into the FCI Dublin. I didn't have time to change our agenda, but this is coffee and conspiracies, so I'm not going to worry about that so much. But so let's set a little bit of context. So Deneen, in case you didn't watch Tuesday's show, was sentenced to prison for 3 months after going into the Capitol peacefully. She had 4 misdemeanors. And I really do question how you can go to federal prison for minor misdemeanors. I don't understand that, guys. I don't understand that.
And everybody who was there with her was questioning it too.
Yeah. So that's true. They actually didn't trust her because they didn't believe that she was actually in prison for her misdemeanors. I forgot about that part. Yeah. So the reason we wanted to talk about FCI Dublin, not just because our friend, Deneen went in there, but because there's a lot of controversy surrounding that prison to begin with. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that today. And then I have one thing that came up at work that I have to talk to you guys about. And I don't know, Moxie, if you have other things, but should we start with FCI Dublin and the history there?
Let's do that.
Okay. So actually, trials are still going on, but there are several staff people who were sentenced and convicted of sexual assault back in 2022. And these are for crimes committed, I don't know, since, I don't remember the years. I think it's since like 2015, 2016 through 2019. There were a lot of complaints. There's like 60 different complainants that have filed complaints against staff of the prison, and the prison was suddenly known as the rape club. A lot of women were raped in there and sexually assaulted, or just predator, like there were predators like wooing them in to take advantage of them because they have power over them and try to build relationships with the prisoners, sexual relationships. So I don't have I'm not going to go through clips of the trials or anything like that. I just wanted to set the context there that this prison was infamous for and known for that. And you remember Deneen during her interview said that she wasn't sure where she was going to be.
Mhm.
She showed up and met this other girl who actually had violent crimes. And there were 2 places she could have gone. She could have gone to the higher security area or the other, I don't remember what she called it. Do you remember?
I don't remember exactly the word that she used.
Yeah,
Probably
it's
one of
lower
this one.
security though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, super light security. And Deneen ended up at the higher security area where
I think she called it the camp.
the camp. Yeah, I think she called it the camp, where the other gal ended up at the camp, which was a lot lighter security. So I know this isn't about weaponization of government or treating January 6th prisoners unfairly, but it was pretty obvious.
Very much so.
Yeah, why they chose to do that. So anyway, so that kind of sets the context. Do you have anything to add there? Okay. So what happened was a lot of these girls suffered retribution for speaking up, but not just them, even staff. So what I want to do is talk about, I do have victim videos, but I've decided I'm not going to show those, and I'll share why when we talk about the judge that gotten involved in this case. She put out 15-page order that I do want to go through, but anyway, it just makes you, it's hard to understand what's actual fact and truth versus if somebody's exaggerating a story. And that's why I'm going to back off from sharing any victim stories. But I do want to talk about a whistleblower who worked for the prison. Her name is Tess. She worked for the prison for 25 years. And she ended up being a whistleblower. And I want to share an interview clip that I have of her. So I'm going to play that real quick.
For the first time, a correctional officer is speaking publicly about abuse she says she witnessed at the Dublin Federal Prison. So far, 5 officers have been charged for having sex with inmates.
New at 10 tonight, in a rare interview, Tess Korth broke her silence about leaving her job after 25 years. She says she was forced out for blowing the whistle, and now a Bay Area congresswoman wants answers.
I retired because I refused to be moved, uproot my family, my husband's business, and go work in a mail facility up in Oregon where I have nothing. You know, after 25 years, I refused to be reassigned because I reported something. I told them to shove it and some other choice words. They've been reported. The things that other staff have observed them doing, like sitting in their office in the dark, watching inmates, terrorizing inmates, being abusive to other staff members, just things that they're not supposed to be doing, are ridiculous. And we've been reporting stuff for years, and you know, they still work there. They did COVID wrong, the COVID quarantining. They were locking pregnant inmates up, which is against policy. They're not supposed to do that. I kept telling them, you cannot lock up pregnant inmates. It's against our policies. You are not allowed to do that. They didn't listen to me. They didn't care. We ended up having one miscarry. I did a report to the Office of Inspector General. Within a few weeks of that report, everything turned upside down. I started being retaliated against. A few days after that, I got called into my supervisor's office. First time in 25 years, I got a letter of reprimand for questioning her leadership. We have to have better leaders. We have to stop the way that the Bureau does stuff. You know, we have investigators that are BOP. They are supposedly investigating. They're friends. You know, how am I supposed to investigate somebody that I've known for 20 years and that we've gone back 20 years and, you know, it's not happening. I love the agency. I was always so proud of the agency. I loved it. I loved it. I lived it. I'm disgusted at what it's become.
Yeah, so she explains a lot there, and kudos to Tess. What a brave woman to come forward and talk about the problems she witnessed at the prison. I wish more would come forward, but
I think so too.
yeah. Any thoughts on that, Mox?
It was heartbreaking listening to her talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things she brought up, which I thought was super interesting, is the fact that they investigate themselves. She makes such a good point there that yeah, how would you investigate someone you've worked with for 20 years? Anytime a prison needs to be investigated, it should never be
The prison itself.
the Bureau of Prisons. It should definitely be an outside investigation. And the person who headed up the BOP was interviewed and asked about whether or not she should apologize to the prisoners who became victims. And this is very short, but this is her response.
The last minute of 60 Minutes is sponsored by United Healthcare. There for what matters.
Now, an update of our story, Agency in Crisis, about the Federal Bureau of Prisons, particularly its women's prisons. This past Monday, FBI agents raided one of them, FCI Dublin, in Northern California. So notorious for sexual abuse and retaliation against those who speak up, it is known as the Rape Club. We asked Bureau of Prisons Director Colette Peters if the government owes the inmates more than a safe environment.
Is your job to apologize for what happened in Dublin?
I don't know that my job is to apologize. Is it heartbreaking and horrendous to have something like that happen when you are proud of your profession as a corrections professional? Absolutely.
The Bureau of Prisons still hasn't.
I mean, it's not her job to apologize. Did you know that?
Whose job is it then?
Right?
And what is her job?
Yeah. So we should talk about maybe the timeline of how things went down this year. Because yes, so there are several people that have been sentenced to prison that committed some of these crimes. I don't know that all the people accountable have been held accountable, just like this woman. So I think some of the administrative management, like why would people who are managing the processes and activities and events that are happening, why are they not also accountable besides the people who committed the acts? Because of their incompetence, it allowed those people to commit their acts. Yeah. So, but here's what happened. So there was in March, there was a raid on the prison, and there was breaking news, and that happened in March.
John, thank you. 10:30 is the time. Breaking news at the half hour. The FBI is currently raiding the women's correctional facility in Dublin. According to the Associated Press, federal investigators have seized computers and documents this morning from that prison. The prison has recently been at the center of a years-long sexual abuse investigation that led to previous charges against a former warden and other employees. Now, according to the AP, the associate warden and a captain were removed from this facility this morning while this raid was conducted. An AP investigation back in 2021 found a culture of abuse and cover-ups that had persisted for years at the prison.
Okay, so they raided back in March, and I don't believe it was related to the sexual assault because that was already under investigation, but there were a lot of reports of just wrongdoing. There was reports of mold. The water was bad, as Deneen pointed out in her interview. People were not given credit for to take like time off of their sentencing. So the paperwork wasn't being handled appropriately. There's all kinds of management and administrative and even living condition problems at the prison. So they were raided, and after that, let me just let's see. After that, after the raid, I want to share something before I get into that, but just remember that March was the raid. I wanted to share this because the prison chaplain was one of the people who took advantage of women and got sentenced to prison. The chaplain, the one you're supposed to be able to count on and go to. And what's interesting in here, I won't go down and read it all, but part of this article talks about how he asked for leniency in his sentencing because because he served in the armed forces as a chaplain. And the judge said, serving in the armed forces, oh, and he also said he had PTSD. And the judge said, serving in the armed forces is not anything that can give you leniency. And the judge also said, just because you have issues with PTSD doesn't mean that gives you an excuse to go out and harm other people. So I thought that was interesting because that came from an Obama appointed judge. And anyway, so I wanted to cover that. But let's get back to the timeline. So in March, the prison was raided, and then in April, a special master was appointed by a judge based on what the raid found. So a special master was appointed to oversee some transformation that needed to happen at the prison. And I guess I think I pulled up the wrong article. That's okay. So the judge appointed a special master. So this was in early April. And then within a very short time, I think it was a week. An announcement came out from the prison.
Also breaking right now, the Federal Bureau of Prisons is planning to close the women's prison in Dublin. The Bureau of Prisons director says that, quote, "We have determined that FCI Dublin is not meeting expected standards and that the best course of action is to close the facility," unquote. FCI Dublin is one of 6 women-only federal prisons. It currently has 600.
So they decided to close just a week after a special master was assigned.
Convenient.
How convenient is that for the timing, right? I find it interesting. It's like, I feel like what they're trying to do with closing the prison is it prevents the information on the details of what was found from coming out. But I think we're finding those details anyway. So good morning, Mike. It looks like Mike joined us too. So yeah, the timing of that was super interesting. March, there's a raid. April, there's a special master, and then a week later, the prison just suddenly closes. No plans put together whatsoever. So I do want to pull up the judge's order because there's some interesting things in the order. I know it's boring to read an order, and I'm not planning on reading the whole thing, but I want to point some interesting things out because it gives us information as to some of the things that were happening besides the news stories that kind of showed there was mold and asbestos, and there was really bad water, bad living conditions, no maintenance. But the judge goes through some of the information, and I just find it interesting. So I wanted to cover this to try to expose some of this because a lot of people probably won't read this. It's only 15 pages, and I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but I'm going to highlight some things. So do you want to, let's see. All right. Yeah, so this goes on to talk about how it's important that any institution, especially if it's a government institution, how important it is that they need to have good structure and good policies and that they follow those policies. So, all right. So one of the things that the judge had said was that, oh, it's really interesting what the judge says here is that closure of the prison is not synonymous with escape. I think that's a critical call out here. And anyway, so she talks about how this order summarizes the events which transpired, and that there's still going to be continued monitoring of the Bureau of Prisons. So, like, they're not closing it is not getting them out of the accountability they still need to face. So, Dorkbot says, I only pray that we can trust BOP to do the right thing. They haven't done such a good job lately. Yeah, and I'm not sure that it's an issue across the nation, because I did hear stories that a lot of prisoners that were transferred, unfortunately, way away from their family, are actually getting medical care now that they weren't getting before. So I think this was definitely a problem at this prison. All right. So it talks about how after the court issued an injunction to protect the rights of the AIC are the prisoners, just so you guys know when we're looking at this. So they have constitutional rights, and the judge was saying that the constitutional rights of the prisoners was being squashed on. So anyway, so BOP said they advised the court that it was considering closure. And so the court calls out that they had time. It had as much time as needed to prepare. Their operational plan for closure was ill-conceived and like Swiss cheese, full of holes. So
Sort of Afghanistan.
yeah, actually, very similar to our Afghanistan withdrawal. Although you can't compare that. We had people killed in there, and there are people still in Afghanistan.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not quite as severe,
but very ill-conceived.
Yeah. All right, so I want to call out a couple of different things here. So I'm going to skip past here and go to page 4. What's interesting on page 4 is actually, I do want this first all the way down to this AICs for placement. Moxie, do you want to read this? Because this first paragraph is kind of important before we get to the rest.
As a preliminary matter, the court notes that both parties have engaged in posturing, both in public and to the court. The posturing incompletely captured the facts on the ground, fueled public disinformation, and unnecessarily complicated the operational process. For instance, the counsel for BOP created the impression in a public filing, which was later publicly reported, that FCI Dublin staff abandoned their posts due to the closure of the facility. This representation was devoid of necessary context, such as the fact that BOP brought in outside staff who told the officers that they had been relieved of their tasks, thereby creating confusion not only as to the expectations of them as employees, but also as to their job prospects. The chaos was of the BOP's own making.
That's a good spot to, that's actually a good spot to stop for a second. So basically, the BOP tried to put out to the media that the staff at the prison abandoned their posts. But what they left out is that outside staff were brought in and told the officers they were relieved of their duties. So people didn't abandon their posts. That was a lie. And that was put out there in the public for the public to consume. So there's a narrative war a little bit going on here too with the closure of the prison. It just shows that they were likely in a panic. you know, you wonder what was going on in their heads because I don't know. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, but you go ahead and continue because it happened on both sides. This what the judge calls disinformation or misinformation. I know that term is overly used, but these are actual inaccurate information that was put out there. Go ahead.
Class counsel, for their part, blindly served as a conduit for AIC complaints without distinguishing between those which were plausibly meritorious and others that lacked any measure of reasonableness. For example, at one point, class counsel claimed certain AICs had been flown from DCI Dublin to a different location only to be flown back, a claim that strains logic and credulity.
That's probably a good place to stop. So when they say class counsel, that's the class action lawsuit lawyers that are representing the prisoners. So they exaggerated like how the prisoners, what was happening with the prisoners when they were being transported after the closure. So I think we just like need to use discernment. And the good thing about going through court documents and reading some of this stuff is you actually get the facts rather than what the media wants to highlight. It's important to understand the facts from, both sides. But I just wanted to highlight that out, especially the fact that the BOP was really putting some propaganda out there. So, all right, I'm going to continue on because what the judge does, actually, I want to start up here, sorry. What the judge does then is say that the court summarizes key operational considerations. And this is what I wanted to talk through, some of these operational problems that were found as a result of the raid and the special master investigation. So the first thing is inadequate staffing, and the judge pretty much called out the fact that what happens as a result of not being properly staffed is that the prisoners were not getting adequate like medical care and mental health care. So do you remember when, and that was the first point that's actually called out here on the next page. Do you remember when Deneen pointed out in her interview that there were people who were suicidal and the care that they got was handing them a coloring book?
Absolutely.
There's also people who put in requests to see doctors and had to go through all this red tape, and it took weeks and weeks and weeks to get any medical care. And not only that, with lack of staff, let's see. The other thing that the judge points out here is the administrative remedies and casework. So basically, what she's pointing out here is a few things. There were like delayed releases because paperwork wasn't kept up to date, and there were. Do you remember with Deneen's interview? She talked about being able to like participate. They had rights to participate in certain programs, and they weren't able to. Like she talked about, like she was supposed to have the ability to join programs like 3 days a week, an hour each or whatever, and she got to do 3 sessions only for the whole time she was in there for the program that she was in. So that was one of the administrative things, but also this talks about how the prisoners weren't getting credit for some of the things that they were doing to shorten their time. But not only that, they were supposed to be released, and they were still in the prison because the paperwork was so backlogged. And it was really, this is really interesting. I will post links to this as a comment on X and Truth Social to posting this podcast. I'll put it in the comments. Links to everything that we talk about here. I'll also add it to a Telegram post. We'll have a follow-up post with all the stuff here. But I highly recommend this order be read. It's only 15 pages. It's got a lot of detail as to what was going down in the prison. So let's see. They also would do complaints and they'd have to wait for their complaints. So, and then one of the things that the judge calls out here is after the closure that there were 21 requests for a compassionate release because of all the problems. And the judge denied it because the judge wasn't the judge that sentenced them. So it wasn't up to her to say, yes, you can be released. But what she had the special master do is go through all the records, do some housekeeping, and get the people out that should have been out, get them released and try to make up for lost time. So, so she calls that out here. The other thing called out in the list of the summary is transportation related concerns were brought up. Some of the prisoners complained that they were injured during transit, but one of the things the judge points out here, and this is why court documents are better to reference than maybe news articles, is the fact that they actually exaggerated their injuries. What actually happened is they complained because they were handcuffed during transit and it was uncomfortable, and they might have had, red marks on their wrists and stuff, but they weren't actually injured during transit. So, so the judge calls that out as nothing they're going to probably follow up on. They did already follow up on it, but then there were complaints of destruction of property, and the judge said these were actually valid concerns, that personal property was destroyed. They were rushing these prisoners out of the prison and making them leave stuff behind. They gave them one duffel bag to put their stuff in and wouldn't let them take anything else. And so other prisoners actually stole some of their stuff. So the judge addressed that as well. And we'll get down to the end. There's a final order, but this is a summary. So then there was immigration related concerns related to the eligibility of certain prisoners who aren't in the United States legally they wanted to have community placement. The judge denied that, said it was all without any merit. But then there were disciplinary records that the judge went over. So part of the summary was one of the things she calls out here is that 10 incidents from April 2022 to 2024 were reviewed. And anyway, there was a ton of incident errors. So what she calls out is that prisoners were pretty much punished, overly punished. There was some retribution against people, putting in complaints. She says here sanctions were incommensurate with the infractions charged. So they were basically over punished and they were inconsistently applied. So all 10 incidents were expunged from those prisoners' records based on the determination, and the follow-up is to do a full audit of all incidents. Let me see here. I wanted to get to, let's see. One of the things the judge calls out in these issues, so that's the full summary, basically, is that the prisoners' conditions were constitutionally suspect, is how she worded it. I want to move to page 12 because I don't know if Deneen mentioned the PREA, which means Prisoner Rape Elimination Act. One of the things Deneen mentioned in there is that drugs were rampant, and there was talk about the fact that after all the arrests and the sentencing of the prison staff who ended up going to prison for the sexual assaults, that current staff were afraid to take away drugs because they thought the prisoners might make a claim saying that the staff were raping them. So they were too afraid to report the drug things. I don't know if that is the case or not, but I think that was Deneen's theory on that. But one of the things called out from the judge here is that the prison didn't appropriately track and process those rape claims filed by the prisoners. So they want to make sure they are able to identify additional individuals who they haven't been previously tracking. So, and then one last thing is just I wanted to talk about her final ruling, and then we can move on. All right. So she's ordered that the BOP, even though they closed, they need to provide a monthly staffing report to the court and special master for each facility to which Dublin class members were transferred. So they need to continue to follow these people. And the staffing report needs to include the number of budgeted and authorized positions and vacancies. And then they have to maintain a weekly update tracking the people that are involved in the class action suit, all the members of those that were housed at FCI Dublin. So the BOP still has to report to the court. And then they have to send updates, including alerts, and the special master's approval is required prior to the removal of an alert. So an alert is like what the court is calling out as problems that they need to address. And they'll be able to have an opportunity to remove those and move on, but it has to be by the special master's approval. So some of the things that they've been directed to do is do medical follow-ups, mental health. All those show that they've taken action to improve in those areas. They need to provide information related to the property of the prisoners and all of the claims and issues that prisoners complained about. And the special master needs to have access to all the information related to the litigation. So even though they closed, they still have to maintain their records. They still have to provide all their records. That based on what the prisoners have complained about, and the fact that the prisoners were transported and it could have taken a while to transport them, they don't want the prisoners to have any credit loss on their sentencing. And any new PREA claims, so any new sexual assault claims, need to be documented, and they need to be able to audit their unitary disciplinary actions. So that was a big complaint, that people were being disciplined based on their complaints. So, so you want to read this last little bit here, the last sentence? Or
Given the
first
utter failure of FCI Dublin to address fundamental operational requirements, the court's monitoring and compliance outlined herein is necessary, unfortunately. Given Warden McKinney's collaboration, the court has a measure of hope that the outstanding issues can be addressed promptly, allowing the court to retract from the need to oversight, although she has now been replaced. The BOP serves an important purpose. The director's challenge is to find more people like Warden McKinney to implement these goals and weed out or retrain others who have contributed to the reputational decline of the BOP. In the meantime, the court will continue to provide oversight to safeguard class members from adverse actions connected to the events that transpired at FCI Dublin.
Yep. So that was an interesting order. A lot of shenanigans, and I bet they thought that closing the prison would get them out of all this oversight. It hasn't, which is great.
It is great.
So I think we're seeing,
addressed.
Yeah. And I think we're seeing justice. It's horrible what some of these women went through, but I think at the same time, like, not all people that work for the Bureau of Prisons is bad either. Like, and there are really good people in there. And look at the whistleblower Tess. Like, she came forward, and we definitely need more people like that coming forward. But anyway, I had a lot more articles and stuff. Well, there's one more interesting thing that I want to bring up for post-closure. So, do you want to read this X post? It's kind of interesting.
Pat Nolan, Director Emeritus of the CPAC Foundation Nolan Center for Justice, recently highlighted the Bureau of Prisons' controversial move to close FCI Dublin without removing the bad actors that enabled years of misconduct by predatory employees, jeopardizing safety both within the walls and outside. It's clear that the Bureau of Prisons works hard to prevent outsiders from seeing what happens inside their prisons.
Bingo.
So,
rather
than deal directly with the despicable staff at Dublin, the BOP decided to sidestep the problem by closing the prison, says Pat. Until now, the BOP has been able to grade its own papers. The Federal Prison Oversight Act, which recently passed the U.S. House Oversight Committee overwhelmingly, would ensure safety and security are prioritized for those living and working inside the walls.
Yeah, that's great that this got a lot of exposure and is causing changes. I do think we need reform, in our prisons, and some kind of third-party independent oversight where they don't know who's doing the oversight, because, whenever you have something like that, then like people can be manipulated or bribed to like falsify reports or something. I feel like just oversight in general for government, for prisons. Yes, we have the different areas of government who are supposed to have oversight over each other. I feel like that oversight needs to sort of be anonymous and factual. But anyway, it's all become political. And now I'm getting off on a rant that's not related to this. So, so I will stop myself. Any other thoughts on the FCI stuff, Moxie?
It's insane that it was allowed to go as long as it did.
It is.
But at least something's being done now.
Yeah. And I do want to dig more, into it more, but I think we covered most of the highlights of kind of what went on there. I think it's been called out really well. So should we get into our extra bonus conspiracy? Okay, I learned something that I had no idea existed or happened. Oh, yeah. Anyway, maybe you guys have heard of this. So maybe I'm crazy for bringing this up. But here's the deal. So, what's really interesting? Over the last week in chat, somebody brought up the Truman Show. I don't know. Let me see if I can see who brought it up and what they were even saying about it. But I'm like, well, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm going to bring this up. So I have to admit that I have never seen that movie. Have you seen that movie,
I
Moxie?
have several times.
Have you?
Yes.
Now I do know, like, from a summary what it was. Obviously, it's like a 1984 book come alive movie kind of thing. And that was done back in the 90s. And I commented, so here it is. It's Shell in where's the Truman Show? But in reality, you have. Let me see if this is.
Part is really the generalized frame that I think folks should read the book for.
Okay, maybe I'm not finding the post. But anyway, I responded to oh, here it is. Oh, I'm going to download this video to set the context. So let me upload this video. And this video was posted by Chell in Telegram chat. And the quote here is from a former Trump DOJ lawyer, Jeff Clark. And he discussed a revealing book on the deep state and whether our republic can be saved. And this is from Epic Times, Epic TV. So is this it? This is it. Let's watch this clip really quick. And then I want to tell you what happened to me this week.
Trouble government part is really the generalized frame that I think folks should read the book for.
The name of the book is National Security and Double Government.
The reason why it's double government is because we have a facial form of government that he calls Madisonian, which is based on the three branches of government, on separation of powers and federalism and inter-branch jostling. But in reality, you have in the background the second form of government, which he calls Trumanite. Good morning.
Okay, the second form of government, which he calls Trumanite. So I responded to Chill and said, and imagine the Truman Show was way back in the 90s. They knew what was underway, right? So then someone at work this week brought up the Truman Show, and I'm like,
weird.
Whoa, that's kind of, it was like the very next day. And I'm like, this is weird because, I mean, I didn't tell these people at work that, you know, that this was brought up in my Telegram chat. They don't even know I have a Telegram. But anyway, so this gal at work tells me, oh yeah, did you know that there was a Japanese reality show that put the Truman Show into real life reality? That these people were on a reality show and didn't know it. Have you heard of that? Have you heard of this Japanese reality show?
No.
Okay. Okay, so this is crazy. This is crazy. And there is a CNN article about this, but I want to share the trailer for this crazy reality show. And let me just set the context. Contestants thought they were going to an audition as a comedian, and they were, this guy is sick. The guy who created this show. They were put into a room and told to strip naked. And then they had to perform certain activities to earn points. And once they earned enough points, then they might pass the audition. And this you'll see in this trailer, that this person kind of went nuts in there, and they were in there over a year. Yeah. And they didn't know that they were like on live TV. It was a live reality show, and the audience laughed at their struggles. And you know, you understand these producers are probably wicked and evil, but like, how can just the general public be like that too. Anyway, let me show the trailer, then I'm going to pull up the CNN article on it too. So this is called The Contestant reality show. And this was sent to me by someone that I work with. Oh, and Herbie said, I've seen it. It's disgusting. Okay, I'm going to play this trailer and then I'm going to bring up the article.
If you put what we're about to show you in a movie, I doubt anybody would believe it.
本当にテレビの神様がいるとしたら、これ悪魔じゃないですか。
Dan Persona was the most popular show in Japan at the time.
The challenge is to see whether someone can survive on competition prizes alone.
He has no food, no clothes.
What?
He doesn't even know he's on television.
アイデアを思いついた時は、やっぱ自分で俺天才だなと思いましたよ。
Every week, more than 30 million people tune in.
Reality TV was not yet a thing. The Truman Show didn't come out till later the same year. They had to cover up his genitalia with something. Nasubi's name means eggplant. That's probably where it all started.
間違いとか間違いじゃないとか、まあ囚われたことはやむを得ないというか。
私から言えばやらされてるっていう。
Being alienated for this long makes you long for human warmth. For months, my life has just been a struggle between sanity and madness.
I think it's a rather grotesque program.
When he goes crazy, it's sure to be on TV.
うわ、取れた。すげえ取れた。終わりですか。
Sorry, I meant to say the trailer was for a documentary about this show. I kind of stated it wrong because I was just in my head with disgust. Yeah, Pocket Friend says Hunger Games stuff. It's crazy. It's crazy. So this was an actual reality show, and Hulu is doing a documentary on the fact that I didn't even know it existed. Did you? I mean, I didn't even know.
Mm-hmm.
Herbie, when did you see it? Herbie says he saw it. It was disgusting. Did you see the documentary or did you see the actual show? But, anyway. So I'm going to just quick bring up this article. The contestant tells the stunning tale of when reality TV met the Truman Show. So it was like the Truman Show come to life. And it is interesting that some of these reality shows, like people want to sort of be voyeurs into craziness that people can do. And like when Big Brother came out for CBS, they called it a social experiment. People locked up in a house, like, what would they do? And I actually used to watch Big Brother. I liked that show, but I don't watch reality TV anymore. But reality TV is kind of interesting. Oh, you watched the documentary, Herbie. Okay. I haven't seen the documentary yet, so I kind of want to watch it, and then maybe I'll post some follow-ups about my thoughts on that. But they said he must stay in there until he earned 1 million yen. So he was in there for over a year.
So this happened back in the 90s.
Yes.
Let me tell you, it's a lot easier now to make 1 million yen than it was back then.
I bet.
I was having a discussion about this the other day. I don't know what the yen to dollar exchange rate is now, but back then it was like 13 yen to the dollar. But it's exploded, and the yen is going downhill real quick. But holy crap!
I know. And then he was an aspiring comedian. He was taken directly from the audition to a small room where he was told to strip naked and fill out contestant coupons trying to win prizes, and that he had to stay in there until he won that much. Isn't that crazy?
That's insane.
That's literal kidnapping. That feels illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Like he didn't even know or even consent to being on a reality show, but this wasn't the United States. So, But yeah, so I just wanted to bring this up. I'll share this article. I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but I'll share the article and the trailer for the documentary online on my various social media accounts. Oh my gosh. Are you going to watch the documentary, Moxie? It's crazy.
I'm scared too.
Are you? So Herbie, should we watch it?
I'm not sure my brain can handle it.
Yeah. I just I think
my stomach.
You know, we talk about the world being crazy right now and all the evil and good versus evil. It's been going on a long time.
It has been
going on a long, long time, but it does it feels like things are like exponentially going faster and faster. Anyway, so that's my extra conspiracy that I wanted to share. Huh?
I think it's becoming more apparent the more technology we have too.
Yeah. Don't waste your time. It's so sad, Herbie says. I might waste my time anyway because I think it's important for people to know. I don't know. Call that out.
Well, if you're gonna watch, I'll watch.
Okay.
We can
Should we have a watch party? That probably wouldn't be a good.
I don't want my name on that.
That probably wouldn't be a good watch party. Do you have any other conspiracies to share, Moxie?
I think they need to make coffee cups bigger so that they have to hold more coffee.
They do make them giant, you know.
They do. I mean, I do have this one.
I still have a couple sips left.
It's as big as my face.
Mm-hmm.
It's bigger than the one that I'm drinking out of currently. And it says I'm not really a social drinker. I'd say most of my drinking is work related. But I don't have anything else beyond that.
Okay. Herbie says it's like don't press the red button.
But I like to press the button.
You know, I kind of like to press the button too.
If there's a button, I'm gonna press it, especially if it says don't press this.
If there's
because I need to know what happens because I am a curious person.
We used to have a couple of red buttons at work at the previous place I worked at, and I should buy some and bring them to my new, because pretty soon we're going to be in the office more. But one was an easy button, which I always loved to slam on after we did something very complex and difficult. And the other one was called a bullshit button. And it screamed that it was all bullshit.
I like that.
I know. I might need to.
I need those for my desk now.
Yep, I might need to get those for my new desk. We're moving this summer to a new building, and so. Oh, Herbie says you saw another show. You'll have to find it. Is it similar? Like, is it related? I want to know.
But maybe you and I need to watch this documentary and talk about it on Tuesday.
Oh, do you think?
Maybe.
Well, do you think we want to have a whole show dedicated to that?
Well, let's watch it and decide.
Okay, let's watch and decide.
Let's see where we can
Herbie,
take it after we see.
If you find the other show that's related, will you send that to me, please, friend? I'd appreciate it. All right. So with that, I think this is yes, in a different country, he says. Oh, interesting. Okay. I'm gonna I might need to watch both now and see if there's any more. I bet there's more. But you know, the whole reality show craze, maybe reality shows. Maybe we should talk about reality shows. You know, I'm not caught up with the ones that are out now, but I do think it might be worth talking about them because I think many of them, they stage a lot of things, you know, they do set up, and they're not true, like documentaries following people around. And to just talk about the craze, like why do people get into them? Huh?
I have a few I watch as a guilty pleasure.
Do you? So I used to. So I'm not like judging anybody, or, you know, I got rid of, you know, I canceled cable last year completely. Like, I watch zero TV now. Zero.
We canceled cable, and then my roommate went out and subscribed to all of the streaming services. So now it's like we're still paying for cable.
You still have you still have TV. Yeah. I did. I just, I'm like, how long has it been since I've even turned on my TV? And I'm paying $300 and some to Comcast to have a landline phone, cable, and internet. And and of course it's monopoly. You don't have a choice as to who you can go through, right? So I just called and said, get rid of my landline phone, get rid of my cable. I need to keep my high speed internet. So anyway, Rocker Lady says there's one that they have to choose someone strictly based on their naked body only. It was so weird. Oh, that is strange. That's sick. Anyway, I think reality TV would be a great topic.
I think so too.
Okay. All right, guys. Anything else to add or any other closing thoughts from you, Moxie?
I don't have anything else.
All right. Me
Hope you all
either.
have a wonderful rest of your weekend and keep asking those questions worth pondering.
Keep asking those questions worth pondering. We need to get the answers. All right, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright